Hello, my friends, and welcome to a space where pleasure is treasured, relaxation is not what you think it is, and life firing on all cylinders is what we're about. If you are somebody who wakes up every day asking for way more, consider this your happy place. Welcome to the Creation of Living podcast. I'm your host, Heather Nichols. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Creation of Living podcast. And I am really happy to be home. I just got home from a month of travels in Europe and the Middle East. I got to see so many amazing people from so many countries, cultures, languages. It was such a treat, really how I love to live my life, just getting to play with all kinds of global playmates and have really cool conversations and explorations and classes. And it was really a really epic month. And I did make some podcasts along the way. The last one was done from the castle in Italy, which was a very cool experience. And I'll be going back there in a month, which is cool. I'm happy about that. And now just really enjoying some time at home and the beauty of spring and early summer, and just excited to receive the bounty of it all. I'm looking this way because it's like electric green right now. It's like that, fresh spring, like newly budded leaves on the trees, and everything's just like super bright green. It's sort of very cool. So I wanted to talk today about creating how to create in a way that is like going beyond normal, basically. Being normal is something that I've been looking at a lot recently, how not normal I am. And how not normal most probably you are, and most of the people that I know and that listen to this podcast are probably not. And trying to be normal is one of the things that messes us up the most, and really creates such lack in our worlds, a diminishment of ourselves, a diminishment of our businesses, our bodies, our relationships. I mean, everything. And I could talk about going beyond normal, and maybe I will. Maybe I'll do like a whole series on it. I always say these things, but then because I'm super not normal, I always forget. So if you want to hear more, you got to remind me. Somebody send me an email or something. But I would love to dive into a little bit of play and extrapolation and exploration with how to create in a way that is not normal. And it's interesting to even say that sentence because creation is not even something that people really talk about. Like, I never had conversations about creation until I found Access Consciousness and the tools of Access, which include the Joy of Business and the X-Men body of work, like the X-Men conversations that we have in Access. I never really I guess because I didn't really see business as creation. I saw it as like some pain in the ass thing that I needed to do to make money because I didn't want to have a job. So I would need to have a business. And plus I just, wanted to be an entrepreneur, but not because I loved business. It was just because of what I wanted to do. And then I discovered these tools and started taking, Access Consciousness classes and Joy of Business classes, and really diving into this massive, massive body of work that Access Consciousness is, and starting to explore and, give myself the gift of so many tools, energetic, pragmatic, totally beyond normal tools that just to really allow us to be ourselves, to have more power and potency with what it is that we're up to in all ways. And that was when my life really started to take off and flourish. I always say there was like the Access Consciousness Foundation class is an amazing class. It's a 3.5 day class that really gives you like everything that you require. There's a few classes like this, but Foundation is one of them that just gives you everything you require to create in a totally different way, create everything you'd like to create, and change anything you'd like to change. And I took that class for the first time. I've taken it many times and I facilitated as well. I can't even count how many times I've been in a foundation class, whether it was delivering one or taking one. And the first one that I took was in 2012. And I always say my life is kind of like pre-foundation and post-foundation. Like before foundation, I thought I was normal. I thought that I needed to follow the rules. I thought I needed to do things the way that, everybody else told me they were supposed to be done. I thought I was pretty darn clueless about a lot of stuff. I really didn't think I had the skills, the capacity to create business, to create money. I saw my life from this lens that was very limited and kind of like I was desiring more and asking for it, but I didn't. When you're asking for something that isn't normal, you need tools that are not normal as well. And I didn't have them. I did not have them. And so I gave them to, myself the gift of those tools by taking that class. And then everything changed. And I always tell this story that, when I took that class, at the time, I believe it was $1,200 for the class. Now it's $2,500, I think. But so this was, it was quite a while ago. And I didn't have that money. I didn't know how I would ever create that money to like that much extra. And I asked the facilitator, it was like, can I do a payment plan? Can I give you three $300 checks and you could cash them once a month, or 4 $300 checks? You can cash them once a month for 4 months. And she was gracious enough to say yes. And so I paid the first one, took the class, and then 3 weeks later, I called her and I said, you can cash all the checks. And so she did, and because I like my creative reality exploded after taking that class, and I started using these tools that were so not normal, that matched how not normal I was. I didn't even know at the time that I wasn't normal. I still was trying to be. And I think we all kind of like, there's been a lot of conversations recently around not being normal. And I keep looking at like where I try to make myself normal, where I'm just not. Like as a parent, I could do a lot of, podcasts about that, how I've parented my kids in a very different way. And how I am with my body, how I am in my relationship, like I just do things very differently. And a big part of it is that when I really started to explore myself as a different creature who wasn't normal, average, real, and the same as everybody else. And when you realize that you are an energetic creature, you are a creature of awareness, a creature of capacities, a creature of difference, you got to have tools that are sophisticated and elegant and pragmatic and energetic enough to meet you. Otherwise, you're gonna be bored, and I think that's what happens with a lot of people is a lot of people get very bored because you're like nobody tells you, there's a different way to do things. And you might have an awareness that there's a different way to do things, but it takes a lot of trust and exploration to kind of figure out how that works and to lean into what it is that we know about that. And it's so nice when somebody can kind of like hand you this toolbox that isn't about what they're doing or what they're saying you should do, but they hand you a toolbox that you can like roll up your sleeves and dive into and start pulling all these tools out and being like, oh my God, I get to explore um all of these energetic, pragmatic tools in such a way that is actually true for me, that makes sense to me. And that's one of the most unique things about the tools of access is that they're not they're not cookie cutter at all. Like this is a conversation where it's like, hey, here's some energetic tools. You use them. You see what this is like. You find out, how this works for you. Try it on, see if it fits, see if it works, try it a different way, and apply it to what it is that and find out, use the tools to find out more about what you know, because as you find out more about what you be that's different, then your creative capacities and your own way with creation is going to be revealed to you. Like you're going to discover it, uh, but empowered with these tools that help you to do that, And I'm just so grateful that I've given myself access again and again and again and again and again to these tools and these conversations, because every single time my life expands. And now at this point, it's so energetic that I don't even really can't even really put it into words anymore. It's just like, wow, things are greater now. Things are greater now. Things are greater now. And that's a daily thing for me, which is really cool. So how do we? It's like, okay, yeah, there's the tools. Now, what are they? I mean, there's so many of them, but what are they, and how do you apply this pragmatically to your life? Well, a lot of what we use in access consciousness is questions, and questions open up awareness to new energies, new awarenesses that you haven't had before. But you have to ask questions that are truly open-ended. They're genuine questions. There's a genuine sense of wonder and curiosity about them, about what you're asking about, rather than looking for an answer because you need a result. A lot of, like we say, humanoids or X-Men, which are the seekers of the world, the people that function from a different point of view, people that have a different way of seeing things, a different way of perceiving things, a different brain function, even like more of a holistic, spherical brain function. We call those people X-Men and Access. And I would say anybody really drawn to these conversations and this work is a humanoid or an X-Men on some level. If you're like, yes, this makes sense to me, and it's not about, creating any sort of separation, but it's just acknowledging, when we start to acknowledge, okay, I'm different, then we can start to explore again. It's like, I'm not normal, so let me explore what is beyond normal, and with tools that are beyond normal. So asking open-ended questions that don't have any sort of, you're not looking for a conclusion, you're not looking for a result, you're looking for more awareness. And when you are a not normal creature, creating from awareness is really the way to go, because you're going to have new awareness every day of new things that you can create, new ways that you can create things, like, maybe you reorganize your business, to like, change up people's roles so they're not doing the same thing all the time, which is also something that X-Men get very bored with, doing the same thing every single day. So X-Men require a lot of variety, a lot of input and stimulation, a lot of exploration, and really they're really good at multitasking, and just to really start to just to be able to use our capacities in their fullness, because X-Men have a lot of capacities, and again, they're energetic. And so when you give an X-Men the leeway and the freedom to move and play in different ways and explore in different ways and create different things and see how it works and find out, oh, that didn't work or that did work. That's the best way that humanoids and X-Men learn, is through, try it on, make a choice, see what it creates, and you're going to have a lot more awareness from there that will serve you so beautifully in the future that you're creating. Another piece of this is that X-Men and humanoids are very interested in creating the future and actually have a lot of capacities for the creation of a future, and a different future, a future that hasn't existed before, a future that doesn't currently exist, a future that is different, that is not normal. And when you create a different future, it doesn't really, a lot of people do like goal setting, and it's like, this is what I want to do and this is what I want the future to be, and they put a lot of like images to it and visualizations, and but that solidifies things a lot. And a lot of times what happens is we end up creating things in our head when we do that, and then it's done, because X-Men are so fast that you get the energy of something, you create it, and it's done before it even becomes a physical reality. And so for X-Men, we have to stay like in this kind of more, I would say, like amorphous kind of space of like exploring the movement of energies as they're just constantly occurring and constantly moving. And it's really interesting to create a business. I mean, creation can be lots of things, and this is creation of living, right? So we can create our bodies, we can create our families, we can create relationships, business, we can create with the earth. Like there's so many different, we can create art, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to, I guess, kind of hone in a little bit on business, because it's a very tangible conversation around creation. And I guess where I want to start with this. But how do you create a business when you're changing all the time, Um, and it's like, and still be, because most people would be like, well, I'm a freak, I change all the time, so I have to solidify my business and forget about like what a freak I am, and how not normal I am. I need to like put that over here, because that doesn't work in business, that doesn't work with money. Well, guess what? When you do that, you put your greatest capacities in the corner, right? Nobody puts baby in the corner, right? So you put your greatest capacities in the corner, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to try to do this the way that everybody else does. That doesn't make any sense to me, and you debilitate yourself, because your greatest gifts, strengths, awareness, capacities, they're over there in the corner. And so, but then how do you make something like that work in a world where that is so like normal is so paramount, normal is something that is so important to people to fit in and to, not be too different and all of that. Or people that are like hyper focused on being different, but has this energy of like proving and, needing to be seen in a different way, needing to be special. And none of this is about that. It's really about the gift of like us being so present with ourselves in this exploration, and just giving ourselves the gift of, the difference that we are, not because anybody needs to see it, but just because it makes life easier and way more fun and relaxing and delicious and amazing and phenomenal when we love ourselves and we enjoy ourselves and we recognize the difference that we are. So how do you make it work, in a world where it's like, okay, you got to play by the rules, but you're like, no, that's just not very fun for me. Well, so I started to talk about, be asking a lot of questions and receiving a lot of awareness, and be willing to function in a really different way. Be willing to make changes at any time. Nobody, like, there are a lot of like kind of like rules and regulations of this reality, like of normal reality, that don't apply to you, and so don't make them apply to you. Understand what they are. That's a pragmatic thing, to understand what those rules and regulations are, how people abide by them, how things are done, and then break them. Break those rules, because that's where we start to really have fun and enjoy the process of creation. And also, it just it won't work anyway if you try to adhere to them. But we do, it is helpful to acknowledge them. So here's an example. There's a lady that I've been working with, amazing lady, who opened a restaurant recently, and she was like, I don't have set hours. We're there when we're there, we're not when we're not. Like, the staff kind of comes and goes, and she said, she told the, people, like, we close when our pots are empty. And I thought that was just so, like, such a cool, way to phrase it. Like, when our pots are empty, we're closed. Um, and I was like, okay, cool. And, you know, you are running a restaurant. And so if you want your restaurant to be successful, you need to acknowledge that people, the way they function with restaurants is, what are the hours? When can I go? And if they show up when they think you're going to be open and you're not, they may not come back the next time. I mean, if I was never knew if some place was going to be open, however good the food might be, I would probably go somewhere else. Unless I just wanted to, take a chance and see. But so I was like, you gotta recognize that people just, that's how they function. Yes, please be different. Please do things in a different way and be different. And you have to acknowledge, like, where your customers function from. And I was like, maybe you do give some hours, or maybe you post on Instagram. When your pots are full, you post, and people know, you train them, and they start to learn to check Instagram before they come. And she made some changes, and she was so much more relaxed, because a part of it was, she was really wanting to be as different as she is, be not normal, and be like, we're not always going to be open, and I don't always want to be there. And I'm like, get a staff that can run the place without you. Put some hours on the books, however you want to do it, however creatively you want to do it, to give yourself some leeway with it, but create some consistency for your clients. And then you can still be, all over the place, and, following the energy, and, but your business will be running, in its own way, with its own rhythm, in a way that people can rely upon. And that's something that's going to make your business grow. And so it's cool, because she didn't give herself up to organize things in a greater way. She just looked at, like, okay, well, what do I need to do to make this work in the way that people relate to restaurants, that doesn't require me to all of a sudden start to show up on with regular hours, because what works for her is to have a lot of variety, and to be like, today I'm going to go here, and today I'm going to do this, and today I'm not going to do this, and that's wonderful. And if you try to run a business like that, again, it's not pragmatic, because people, they do want to know that they can rely upon you, or they'll take their business somewhere else. So that's just a sort of an example of, like, how to that we need to be aware of the rules and regulations and the structures that people function from. And then it's like, how do you make that work for you? So if you don't have to give up your abnormal, your like beyond, I'm not going to say abnormal, let's say beyond normal. If you don't have to give up the difference of you, how you function, how you like to roll, how you like to flow, with your time or whatever it may be, you don't have to give any of that up. And you can be aware of how things work in the world. It's like you can do them the way that people expect them to be done, or you can also not do them the way that people expect them to be done, and keep people in question, And I've seen this with Gary Douglas, who's the founder of Access Consciousness. He's like the king of, doing things in a very unexpected way. And he will like change the prices out of the blue. Like at one point, I think it was like a year and a half ago, he was like, everything's going up by 25% as of today, And I was like, if you want to pay for your classes that you're signed up for today, you get the current price. But after that is, the prices are going way up. And it's like, nobody does that, but he was just like, no, this needs to happen now. We're going to do this now, and he's willing to lose clients. He's willing for people to go away. He's willing for people to be like, that's too much money, and just, he changes things on a dime, and is like, it's so cool to see, because it always comes from his awareness, and it comes from what he knows, and it comes from this place of like really looking outside the box and being different with everything. I was working on a class years ago. We had a class that was happening in Brazil. It was our yearly Global Foundation class, and I was the main online host for the class, and we had 4,000 people online for the class. So it was a huge online class. And we used to have people be able to ask questions in class from online. But there were so many questions that people wanted to ask. There was no way we were going to get to all their questions. And in the middle of the class, Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, said, we need to get a bunch of certified facilitators together, and we need to send all of the online questions to them. He was aware of this energy of like need, and all these people kind of like pulling on his energy and pulling on our energy as the hosts, and like all this kind of frantic energy. He was aware of it, and he was like, let's take that and let's work with it and allow people to relax and know that they're going to get their questions addressed, and that can shift the energy of the class, and the class can move in a different way. Within 20 minutes, we had a system set up. It was amazing. We had people we had a whole group of facilitators ready to go, and we were able to connect people with them. And the system that we set up basically stayed the same. It still is the same to this day. And we always look at, we're always willing to change things. But it worked. It just worked, and it still works, and it's changed the way that online questions are handled, and it's changed even at this point. It's changed even the quantity of questions that we get online. We get a lot fewer questions now from people in classes because, it's just a different energy. And there's a sense of relaxation in everybody's worlds. And that's the thing, is when you're willing to go beyond normal and just be creative, try something out, see if it works. In this case, this thing that we created, it worked, and it keeps working, and we're always willing to see, well, maybe it's not going to work at some point. Maybe next time, after 5 years, 6 years of doing it this way, maybe it won't work, that's always a possibility. Maybe it's not necessary anymore. So when you function beyond normal, you're not looking to maintain the status quo. You're not looking to hold structures in place. You're not looking to keep things the same. You're not looking to have that sense of like, you know, like never ever changing, you're 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 willing to like really create and extrapolate and add things and try things and see if they work. And and it's helpful to communicate with people when, if in like in business, when you're making a change. But you don't owe people anything. You don't have to do things the way that they think they need you to do them. Now, in the case of the restaurant, because you could say, well, she did things the way people needed her to do them. And it's like both, because you do have to look pragmatically at things and see, okay, is this actually going to work for this business? And it may or may not. That doesn't mean you have to give you up, though. And all of the awareness that we get to have about how we can change things, how we can do things beyond normal, how we can do things in a very different way. It comes from getting present with ourselves, getting out of judgment of ourselves and our capacities, being in question, being curious, being willing to change on a dime, and exploring what is possible. Not needing to fit into this reality, fixed normal reality with business, not needing to fit into fixed normal reality with money, how you engage with people, all those things, doing it out of the box, as we say. And that is, it's amazing when you give yourself permission to function like that, what can show up. Now, that is really an evolutionary process as well, because the more you start to explore yourself as a very different creature who has very different awareness and functions in a very different way, you're building a muscle. You're developing a muscle of being willing to trust you, to go with what you know, to not try to fit anywhere, to function out of the box. And that is it's something that we substantiate more and more over time as we explore ourselves. We get to know ourselves. We get to know what makes us tick and what works, and also the energies of what's going on in the world, because the climate changes, that like the energetic climate changes, or the way things are done change, or like people start to freak out about something that they weren't freaked out about before, but then they relax about something that they were freaked out about before. People's points of view change, basically. And so, again, just being aware of that and using all of it. You can ask the question, how can I use all of this to my advantage? I love asking that question because it gives me awareness of how I can use anything going on in the world right now, and I can actually create with it. And that is very beyond normal. To take something that might be a stressor for other people might be freaking out about, there's opportunities and possibilities everywhere. And when we are in question of how we can use something to our advantage and to turn anything into a possibility, we're constantly looking from this different point of view, and that becomes available to us. And then you're never at the effect of what's going on in the world. You're never at the effect of, the economic, whatever's happening, or the political climate, or, any of it. You're not at the effect of it because you're proactively, I mean, the fact that you're not normal, that you may be a humanoid or an X-Men, you're already so far in the future, and you already have such incredible awareness of the future. You may not cognitize it, you may not, understand it or be able to put it into words, but that's not even as important as having the energetic sense of the future. And when we follow that and we function from that and we work with that, we are so far ahead already of so many other people. And we can stay connected to what's going on now, but we can be creating these futures for people, and future, business possibilities or offerings or whatever, that meet people where they are when they get there. And that's an amazing capacity. The way that we really start to expand our capacities and tap into our capacities is when we get out of judgment of ourselves. And that is a huge, massive, very important X-Men tool that is about like lowering your barriers to you and asking the question, what's right about me that I'm not getting? What's right about me that I'm not getting? What's right about this that I'm not getting? Because it allows you to take anything that you've made wrong, that you've judged, that you're like, oh, this is my, I'm too disorganized, or I'm too flaky, or I can't handle a schedule, or, whatever it is, you can, if you're judging it, making it wrong and trying to change it so that you can be more normal, then you are giving up on the greatest assets that you have, which is your difference, your awareness, your knowing that is so unique. You lean into all of that by asking what's right about you and taking anything that you judge about you and literally turning it 180 degrees so that you start to see whatever you thought was wrong, you start to see it as a capacity, a greatness, something that is phenomenal about you, something that's different about you, something that's unique about you. And when you do, that is where you give yourself access to this treasure trove of awareness and information and creative possibility. And that is one of the most amazing spaces for really getting creation to move, for creating beyond normal, and creating in a way that is totally unique to you, that honors your unique way and your unique awareness and way of being and functioning in the world. And oh my gosh, what an absolute gift that is. There's a treasure trove that is you, beyond normal, and everything that you know and everything that you be and everything that you're capable of, that is so, so, so unique. But it is, for most of us, hidden underneath a lot of rocks, that show up in the form of the way we judge ourselves, the way we try to fit in, the way we try to make things work, the way we try to be normal. When you let go of that, you no longer prioritize being normal, fitting in, making sense to other people, and you also stop judging you and asking, hey, what's right about me I'm not getting? What's right about this I'm not getting? What are my capacities that I have never acknowledged? What have I decided is wrong about me that's actually my strength? So all these questions you can be asking, and then let the awareness come and let it show up. And you're constantly inviting new awareness, new information of how different you are and how you can use that to create something that's never existed before. That's one of the greatest gifts with business, is that's innovation from a business perspective, is when we create something that has never existed before. That is innovation. And innovation is one of the greatest, it's one of the greatest spaces to function from, really, with business. It's something that a lot of really brilliant entrepreneurs are very good at, is because they're seeing the future, they're creating for the future. And I mean, you can look at all the great innovations of the world, over time, they've all been something that did not exist. And then they did, because somebody was brave enough to innovate and see what they saw and bring it to life, and we have to trust ourselves in order to do that. X-Men and humanoids are some of the most capable creatures on the planet, some of the most creative, some of the most future oriented and future aware and different. And all of that is, again, your greatest wealth, your greatest asset. You've got to start looking to that with curious eyes, with eyes of wonder, and the willingness to have the courage to trust you and to innovate and to fail as well, because we fail a million times along the way as well, and that's just part of the process. But letting go of the priority of fitting in and being normal and making sense to everybody else, it can feel lonely at first, but when you really start to thrive and hum with this totally different way of creating, wow, what becomes available, what we become capable of, and what we end up creating is incredible. Absolutely incredible. I love seeing it in action in my own life and also in the lives of the people that I work with, and that I coach and facilitate. It's so incredible to see people thriving as the difference of them, and then their businesses thrive and their money flows follow, and it's just so cool. I have more of that in the world, please, for anybody asking for it. So this summer, I'm going to be doing a lot of explorations of some of these conversations. I have a 10-week Business Done Different online program that is like amazing, pragmatic, energetic tools for creating business in a very different way. I have a 2-day X-Men class, which is also a deep dive into you, the difference of you, and getting out of the wrongness of you so that you can see all of the capacities that you have that you thought were all the places you were fucked up. So that's happening online as well. I have an out-of-the-box telecall. We're going to explore functioning out of the box with business and relationships and bodies and whatever else we discover. Some Access Consciousness Foundation classes, one in Budapest, Hungary, and one here in Boulder, Colorado. The Boulder one is in August. The Budapest one is in July. And a lot of other stuff, some 3-day body classes, one in Seattle, one in England, and just all kinds of fun explorations for truly just discovering the difference that we be and thriving with it, letting go of normal and truly thriving with that. So you're invited to come and play. You can check out my website, heathernichols.com/events. It'll give you all the dates and all the things and links and such. And I hope this was a contribution, and I will see you next time for more. Bye. Thank you for joining me for the Entrepreneurial Biome podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. For more resources, check out my website at heathernichols.com and my social media channels as well. Have a beautiful day, and remember that your business thrives when you do.